Pretty much everybody has an opinion about what somebody else should be doing with their time, their money, or their future, right? Everyone's got an opinion, especially now, and you can put them anywhere you want. So today on the BWI Daily Edition, I'm your host T. Frank. We're going to be talking about similar situations. Lonnie White Jr. faces a tough decision this week of whether or not he's going to play college football and baseball or elect to go to the majors and start his professional career right now with the Pittsburgh Pirates, signing a possibly either from million to multi-million-dollar deal. Ryan Snyder, Greg Pickle, Nate Bauer, they've all been covering this situation with Lonnie White Jr. They've been doing a great job. I've been reading as much of that as I can. I've been reading all of it, and you should as well at bwi.rivals.com. I've been trying to inform myself on the situation in a large sense. But here's the thing. I still feel like I don't know the situation, and here's why. Baseball scouting is a complete mystery. Not just to me. So, I scout for a living, but I'm a football scout. And I've been looking for scouting profiles. I want a breakdown of his strengths and weaknesses as a baseball player, and I can't find anything. So what we're going to do, because that's very frustrating, is we're going to take a look at a different situation. We're going to take a look at the if Lonnie White Jr. decides to play football and baseball at Penn State. Can he? Because he's not the first football player that's committed to the Nittany Lions, that's committed to James Franklin, that's wanted to play two sports. Mac Hippenhammer famously was a football and baseball player before he was eventually just a baseball player. So, can Lonnie handle both sports and be successful? Not just do it, but be successful. So this is where we got to take a look at his film, because in his junior season, we have an evaluation of him, but he only played 4 games as a senior. And what did he do? What did he accomplish in that final COVID year as far as getting better as a football player? Well, because of that year playing quarterback and a limited year in 2020, I don't know that he's improved too much as a route runner. And at 6'2", 210 already, this is a guy who's going to have a hard time being that elite route runner because of his size and his length. So focusing on that is a really important thing. I don't know that that's gotten any better. So you see, even this here on a big play, that's not really an impressive route. That's not really anything that's gaining him separation. That was just him being bigger, faster, and stronger than everybody else around him. And it takes a special athlete to be able to continue to do that, to just be bigger, faster, and stronger, and maybe not be as technically sound and still make plays. Either his freshman year if he plays, or as a redshirt second-year player, whatever the situation is for Lonnie, eventually will he be left behind? And the biggest difference between him and Mac Hippenhammer is that athleticism. He does have something special because he is a breathtaking athlete with his size, and watch this speed. And it's not necessarily that this is a particularly hard route. He didn't have to, route to the end zone. He didn't have to make anybody miss, but just the speed, the size. You can see the baseball application with that throw, can't you? That catch. And here on this one, yeah, it's not a great route, but he outruns the entire secondary. He has predatory movement skills. He is he's the sort of athlete that makes me fall in love with football on a regular basis when I see stuff like that, because it's just so impressive. That's the beautiful side of what athletes do, is they can just do things that are mind-blowing. But he is not a refined receiver yet. So the question is he a better baseball player? And that leads us back to our original question. Is he a better baseball player right now than he is a receiver? He's been playing more baseball. He's been playing baseball this summer. I don't know what sort of off-season training as a receiver he's been doing, but as an athlete, it's obviously translatable. You're not drafted in the second round of the Major League Baseball draft if you aren't a great athlete, because aside from the NFL, there is some of this, but most major league drafts, especially the NBA, and I get the sense baseball as well, you're looking for physical tools. Can you throw the ball hard? Do you have a ridiculous batting percentage? Are you big and fast and strong? For the most part, that's what Major League Baseball and especially the NBA looks at. The NFL is lucky that they have college football as a feeder system and a quasi-minor league. They can select the best trained athletes that have the best of both worlds. Lonnie White Jr., and I don't say this all the time, has the athleticism to be a professional athlete in whichever sport. But is he going to become a good enough receiver playing baseball part-time to make it to the NFL eventually? And I know that this is the beginning of his journey, but that's the decision he's faced with right now. He can go to the major leagues right now and sign a multi-million-dollar deal, potentially. Or he can stay in school and bet on himself as a football player and delay the baseball decision. And that's where at this point, that's up to him. And it would be really hard for me to tell somebody to turn down $1 million to $2 million at 18 years old. Which leads us to our next conversation. And we probably should have gotten to this on the daily a little bit earlier, because last night I had a dream that I was trying to file my taxes as an 18-year-old with the lunch lady. So we need to talk about name, image, and likeness. It's really hard to tell somebody to turn down money right now for the potential of money later when it's never guaranteed, especially for athletes where it's such a low percentage that you make it to the professional leagues. Lonnie White Jr. has that opportunity right now. And the question that a lot of us have been bandying about, of people that cover Penn State football or for fans, does Penn State have the opportunity with name, image, and likeness to defray some of that and make it an easier decision for him to delay his baseball career? And right now, I don't think so. They're building the infrastructure right now for what they want to do in the future. I don't think it's prepared or ready right now to say, Lonnie, you can make $500,000 here. I know it's not $1 million, but this, it'll get you close. And here's the thing, is that Penn State's approach in general is going to be a little bit more reserved. Right after the decision was handed down in July, LSU on Twitter released the NILSU logo, which just felt gross. It's everything that everyone was afraid of if you went to an academic institution that didn't have questions or allegations of paying athletes under the table in the past. So Penn State and their approach is academic-centered. Again, if you've been following along with Ryan Snyder and Nate Bauer and Greg Pickle and Dave Eckert and the reporting they've been doing at bwi.rivals.com, check out all those articles because they'll fill you in on the details of what Penn State's plan is. But from a general sense, it's an academic, broad-based approach to financial literacy and brand building. It's a business course. And for the record, I believe that's the right way. And this is not some sort of high-minded educational thing. Education simply means knowing what you're doing. It means knowing what you're supposed to be doing in a certain situation. Somebody taught you that stuff. That's education. And I believe that you should have financial literacy. But I'm a 30-year-old man who went through a decade in my 20s of hard lessons to learn that. 18-year-olds don't have that information. So you're asking them to buy in on something that is absolutely not sexy, but it's the right thing. And if you've ever been married, or if you've ever interacted with another human on almost any subject, especially lately, you know that you may have information. You may have well-researched facts and opinions. You may think you're right. You may be right. But does it matter? Does it matter that you're right, that you're taking a responsible approach? Not really. Not really, because you may be completely right and miss the point entirely. And that's where Penn State may find themselves in the next couple of years, because you are trying to convince impulsive and sometimes some of them are very mature, but a lot of, in general, young men are impulsive athletes. And we're talking specifically about men's basketball and football, where the money is concentrated, where we're talking about the big figures of money. You're asking all of them to buy into the idea of understanding what they're doing with money first and then getting money, instead of NILSU. That's hard. That is a hard thing to try and get somebody to do. And this is a little surprising to me because one of the things that I thought Penn State has done the best under James Franklin has been marketing their program, making themselves look like an appealing, attractive place to be. They've done a phenomenal job with all of that stuff. But this particular situation, I wonder if they've missed the mark a little bit. And that doesn't mean that they can't fold in that later of how you make money by being an athlete at Penn State. Absolutely. But the initial launch lacked the traditional Penn State pizzazz, especially on the football side, where we focus a lot of our attention. So are they going to get it right? Or are they going to miss the point? And here's the last thing I'll leave you, because there are going to be, you can attract athletes that have good centered ideas on all of this stuff, but there will be some that you're going to miss on if you don't bring a little bit of that flash of cash. The last thing I'll say is that talking to people, there is the concern that has been looming around this topic for a long time of, well, now it's just going to make it easier for schools to pay players to go, and recruiting is going to be dead, and the competitive balance is going to be dead. Maybe. Yes, maybe. But I would counter with two things. First off, we've used that excuse to do nothing for a very long time. Well, here's a problem. We can't solve it. Well, maybe we can solve it. Maybe we should try and solve it. That's the phase we're in right now. The second thing about that is it's already been happening. The number of recruits, especially in basketball, where we've heard over the years that they've been paid to go to school under the table from AAU sources. I mean, you can write a book on it. You throw a stone and you can find a story about that. So it's already been happening. Will there be other schools that get into the game now? Schools that previously didn't, that now there's a legal way to do that? Yes. But is the number, and are the number of athletes and the number of dollar figures going to change? I don't think that much, because again, it's already been happening. So it just depends on how you want to approach the situation. And I think Penn State in the future can develop a plan that is competitive. But it's that initial burst out of the gate. Do they have it or not? And I think we're going to find out. That's this edition of the BWI Daily. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. You can call me T Frank, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, on YouTube.